Family, your everyday light worker, back again talking more about sexual harassment. So now we're going to talk about when sexual harassment actually is in the workplace and it's happening, what an organization needs to do. Because the Supreme Court said when you have sexual harassment in your organization, you need to take effective remedial action quickly. Effective remedial action. So let's talk about what effective remedial action is. It's a responsibility to take prompt and appropriate remedial specific actions taken, and those actions vary based on the circumstances and severity of the allegations. But here are some common remedial actions. Immediate investigations. So we talked about when an organization has an internal investigation procedure and how we know that that is a good procedure that the organization has in place. So the organization can conduct a thorough, impartial investigation into the allegations. The investigation should be conducted by a trained and neutral party, ensuring that the relevant facts are gathered and analyzed. Also, you want to take temporary protective measures for the alleged victim. If necessary, implement interim measures to protect the alleged victim from further harassment or retaliation. These measures may include changing work assignments, modifying schedules, or providing a temporary leave of absence. Disciplinary action. If the investigation determines that the harassment occurred and identifies the perpetrator, you have to take appropriate disciplinary action. This can range from verbal counseling to termination. It depends on the severity of the conduct and the organization's policies. Restorative measures. This doesn't happen often enough, but this is really something that needs to be done. So, restorative measures provide support and remedies for the victim, such as counseling, medical assistance, or other resources to help them recover from the impact of the harassment. So, a lot of times the victims suffer worse than the harasser because they get blamed for reporting the harassment. Like I said, I've done not thousands, but hundreds of investigations, and I've seen this over and over and over again that people sort of blame the victim for reporting it and causing a disruption in the workplace. And so I've seen the victim be moved as opposed to the harasser being moved to another part of the organization. And that really is unfair to the victim when they weren't the one that did anything wrong. So organizations need to do better at looking at what kind of restorative measures they can take to help the person who has been the victim of harassment instead of unconsciously or unknowingly or unwittingly punishing this victim further by doing things that single them out and make them feel like they are being penalized for reporting the harassment. Training and education. Offer anti harassment training to all employees, ensuring that they understand what constitutes harassment, how to report it, and the consequences for engaging in that behavior. So, when someone is often one of the remedial actions that I would recommend for the harasser is that they have to attend their own personalized anti harassment training. And they would be quizzed on what the organization's policy was, and they needed to pass that with flying colors, and all of that would be put in their employee record. So if you are engaged in harassment, you need to understand that your organization has a policy against that, and to not do it because you're violating the organization's policies when you do. Communication. Communicate the outcome of the investigation to both the alleged victim and the accused in a way that respects their privacy and confidentiality. Now, this tends to be a bone of contention with the victims of harassment because they want to know every blow by blow what happened to the alleged harasser once the investigation is complete. But you have to understand that that person has rights as well as you do. And their discipline they receive on their job is confidential in most organizations. And so you can't know what type of discipline this person received as a result of the investigation. You can know that remedial action was taken and that it should not, will not happen again. I say should not because An employer cannot completely control an individual. They can't say absolutely 100% it's never going to happen again. But they can put penalties in place so that the person who was guilty of the harassment understands that this is not appropriate, and to make sure that they don't do it again. Preventing retaliation. Now, this is really important because, like I said, for whatever reason, this is a type of complaint, more so than others, that brings retaliation from all areas of the workplace. Not even just the harasser retaliates for against the victim for reporting him, but all people have opinions about this. People have really strong opinions about this, and I don't understand why. Because if you're not involved in it, you need to just keep your nose out of it. Is my professional opinion about it. But people, for whatever reason, have very strong opinions about it, and they want to have their opinions known. And a lot of times, they will retaliate against retaliation can occur with both parties, and it should not, because this should be a confidential investigation where people, are asked questions, and that's it. If you have been asked to be a witness and you're questioning about it, you tell what you know, and then you leave it at that. We don't need anything else from you. But people, once they get involved, once they get tapped into the investigation, they have all kind of opinions, and everybody wants to tell you what they think of the situation. And someone who has hired investigators, as someone who has ran investigations, who has done investigations myself, I can tell you, I do not care what you think about the harassment allegations. I don't care, okay? Because you're not the person who is deciding this. This is, you're asked to just tell us what you saw or what you heard, and that's it. It's illegal. It's like a legal proceeding. So it's very strict and structured, and we don't need to hear your gossip or what you think and what you believe. We don't need that, okay? So that all of that could be considered a form of retaliation against the harasser and the victim. We don't need to know what people think about it. We don't need that. That's retaliation. We just need you to be a witness, tell us what you saw, what you heard, and that's it. Cultural awareness. Foster a culture of respect, of diversity, and inclusion within the organization through ongoing awareness and education initiatives. And this is where a lot of organizations fall down, because they do it once, and they feel like, I've done it, checked off that box, I don't have to do that again. Sexual harassment in some organizations is something that needs to be constantly dealt with. So remedial action for some organizations, and you know your organization better than I know your organization. If you're an HR professional in an organization where there's a lot of sexual harassment complaints, then there just needs to be a lot of training. It doesn't have to be a long, involved, tedious type of thing. It can be something as showing this in a staff meeting, so that people understand what sexual harassment is and not to do it. That's simple. All right, Emily signing off.